cultures differ or vary even within an overall cultural or societal grouping. This difference in groups often leads to hostility, fear, anger, and really unprofitable responses. Slide number 42 introduces the unprofitable responses to cultural variation. Every culture has subgroups. These subgroups often have hostility and resentment toward others and resentment toward them from others, and it is one of the big problems in our society today. I want us to look very carefully at some unprofitable responses to cultural variation. The first and most difficult of these is hatred, fear, or hostility. Sometimes one group actually hates another group just because they're different. They're a different culture, different race, different ethnicity, different language, different customs, and we hate them usually because we fear them, and the hostility grows. Some of you perhaps remember the comic strip called Dog Patch. It was Little Abner and Daisy Mae and Mammy Yokum, who had various adventures in living their lives in a backward part of the United States. In one of the events or the depictions in the comic strip, the people from Dog Patch had a visitation from another group of people. This other people were moving through, and the people coming through had square eyes rather than round eyes. And the people in Dog Patch immediately decided there must be something terribly wrong with these people who had square eyes. They must be very dangerous. They feared them, and therefore they hated them. And they began to devise ways to do away with these square-eyed people. Mammy Yokum was out walking in the woods one day, and she found a square-eyed child with his leg caught in a trap. She picked up a piece of wood, was going to knock the child in the head with it and kill it, and then before she did, she noticed the little fellow was bleeding just like one of our children would bleed if his leg was caught in the trap, and he was scared just like one of our children would be scared, and he was looking terribly uncomfortable, just like one of our children would. Mammy Yokum got the little guy's leg out of the trap, carried him to the camp where the square-eyed people were living, and then she realized something unusual. The mother and daddy of the child came running out concerned, just like we would have been for one of our children, and the people gathered around and began to take care of the little boy, just like our people would have cared for one of our children that was hurt. And they began to talk, and Mammy Yokum knew, well, these folks are just like we are. She went back and told the people at Dog Patch, hey, these square-eyed people are okay. They're just like we are. And the two groups got together, had a big meal together, and made great relationships. Now, it was a little different when they came together, because the square-eyed people made pies in square pans and cornbread in round pans, and the people in Dog Patch made pies round and cornbread square, but they got along real well when they got over their hatred and hostility. A very unprofitable response to variation in culture is to develop fear and hatred and hostility toward all the people in the other group. Another unprofitable response we call prejudice. It really means prejudging. It means making is an ugly disposition that pushes up out of our background that causes us to make up our mind before we think. We prejudge people because they're from a certain group, and we think if they're from that group they must be bad or dangerous or unprofitable or something wrong. This is prejudice. We don't think everybody from that group is a certain way, which is probably totally wrong. Another unprofitable response is called ethnocentrism. Ethnocentrism is the idea that our way of doing it is the right way, and anybody that does it any other way is either degenerate, defective, wrong, or at least to be pitied, to be laughed at, or a little bit humorous. Ethnocentrism makes fun of the other group because they don't do it like we do. The worst of these unprofitable response is racism. Racism is the view that my group is inherently superior to your group. Just because it's from my group is always far better, your group is always inferior. It led to things like Nazism in Europe. It's led to other bad social situations when one group says we are inherently by birth better than you and you must be subservient to us. I suspect that when we come to find ways that we can change that will make our life within a certain social group more effective and the group more effective because we are more effective, will be that we will change some of our prejudice, ethnocentrism, and racism, that we'll get rid of the hate we have for other groups. This is probably one of the greatest things we could learn from a course in sociology.